back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm here today to review two books that I completely loved. So let's get started. The first of the books I want to talk about is An Argumentation of Historians by Jodie Taylor. This is book number 9 in her Chronicles of St. Mary's series. And then the other one I want to talk about is Record of a Spaceborne Few, which is by Becky Chambers and is the third one in her Wayfarer's universe, but they're all kind of standalone books, so you don't have to have read the previous to read this one. So I'm going to start off by talking about this one, book number 9 in a series that is very long. I have reviewed all the previous ones, so I'll link my review for them if you're interested, but I wanted to talk about this one because as soon as I saw she'd published it, instantly bought it, because this series is one of my favourites. Each book focuses on very different time periods in history, and we follow a group of historians who have the ability to travel back in time to various events and places to see what really happened. They are all British. They live in essentially a big old manor house in Britain where they have done everything differently. They like blowing things up. They love having a cup of tea and a biscuit. And they're a bit eccentric, all of them, but that is what makes this series so incredibly fun to read. I love this character. Every single character in this book is fantastic, and I love them all, and I think they're brilliant. So, my favourite is the main character called Max, although I do have a real soft spot for Markham as well. He's pretty great. So yeah, I love Max though. She is our main character. She is a feisty, fantastic, intelligent, witty, tea-reliant, amazing main character. She is just the best person, and I think she does the best with every situation that she is in, even when those situations are pretty dire, pretty crazy, and sometimes just completely baffling, to be honest. She's great though. And in this situation, we're following her as she once again goes back into the past, and this time they go to 1536, where they see Henry VIII as he gets trampled by a horse. They then also go back to the fall of Persepolis and watch what happens there and really uncover the truth behind that. And then stuff starts going wrong, because that's what always happens in this series. Nothing can ever go right for too long before there needs to be a bit of action and drama. And what happens is that Max somehow gets separated from the group and ends up in a completely different time period from where she grew up and where she wants to be. And she ends up having to live there. And we follow her in the medieval sort of period while she is growing older and dealing with being left and abandoned, away from everything and everyone she's ever known. And what I liked about this is that it felt like a fairly contained story. Obviously there are quite a few references to things that have happened in the past, and if you've read all the books then you would know all that, but I personally just love this series, and I think she does an excellent job every time of having an evil villain who is pretty damn evil, very stereotypically so, but also just doing a great job of keeping it fresh and interesting and a bit episodic, but not in a boring way. It's definitely fun, it's feisty, every book feels like a standalone story, even though it does have all those references, and I just love it. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thoroughly recommend it. Definitely going to keep reading the series for as long as she keeps bringing them out. I love it. The next one I want to talk about is Record of a Spaceborne Few, which is by Becky Chambers. This book is not quite a direct sequel to The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet because it doesn't really cross over at all. There is just one tenuous link, which is that one of the main characters from Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is the brother of one of the main characters in this. That's about it for crossovers. There's not an awful lot else other than the fact that they're both in the same universe, of course. But it's brilliant. It is completely original and completely different, and I love it. This story starts very soon after the ending of Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, so if you've read that then you will get that slight reference to what happened at the end, but not an awful big spoiler, and it's definitely something you don't have to have read at all to enjoy this book as a standalone. In this one, we are following an entirely new cast of characters, and all of them are somehow connected to or interested in the Exodus fleet, which is basically humanity's escape from Earth. When Earth just got too bad for them to live on, and they got to a point where they could safely and securely go up into space and travel away from their planet. That is exactly what the human race did, and they did this in an Exodus fleet. Everyone got up, got on these big old massive giant ships that are purpose-built for humanity to survive in space, and just whizzed off into space, and that's exactly what they did. And we follow a group of people, some of whom are on the Exodus fleet. They've flown with it all their lives. Some of them are aliens who are coming to investigate the fleet and want to know more about humankind. Humans at the point where we pick up the story are fairly insular. You don't see an awful lot of them just out in general space. They kind of tend to congregate together, so not all of the alien races really know too much about them, and particularly they don't know an awful lot about the Exodus fleet because it is fairly sealed off. You can visit, but why would you want to if you don't know anything about it and you've got no real attraction? That's kind of a part of the story. What we learn quite early on is that there was a distinct shift from becoming voyagers of the universe into becoming part of the GC, the Galactic Commonwealth. And they didn't really fit into the Galactic Commonwealth. Humanity was seen as a bit naive and a bit backwards in their technology, basically far behind most of the alien races, so it took quite a long time for humans to get integrated into the GC. We pick up the fleet many generations after they have left Earth, but not so long that it's completely far removed from some of the older people's past. Some of them still remember the battle to get into the GC and having to prove themselves and things like that. What I really like about Becky Chambers' work is that it never feels like a big epic space battle. It actually feels a lot more like a story that's focused on an individual in space, and somehow these individuals will tie together and link together with other individuals in the story. But then there is the factor that it is in space, it's in a universe. The universe with every single book from the Wayfarers series is being expanded and growing and developing, and she's doing such a good job of just spreading that groundwork really, really beautifully. She's very good at showing you a society where things are better, people are more accepting and open and honest, and they want to give people a chance, basically. I really think that her books are just about people trying to fit in and do the best they can in the situation they've been given. And alongside that, they just happen to be in space. They're really thought-provoking stories and they have a lot of meaning behind them, and yet they feel very easy to read and very approachable. So some of the main characters that we follow include Isabel and her wife. These two are some of the older members of the fleet. They remember a lot more about the GC and the settling. Isabel also works in the archives, and she has a friend who is a Harmedian. I'm never going to be able to say this word right. Basically, it's an alien. And Isabel is very caring and she stands up for the fleet, wants to protect what it's all about, and she's very, very concerned with that. Her friend, the Harmedian, is coming to the fleet at the time where we pick up the story because Zay wants to find out about the fleet, and they are non-binary, these aliens. We also have Ias, who is a young worker on the fleet. Ias is someone who a lot of people are not really sure how to approach because Ias works as a composter, and that essentially is kind of the same job as working in a morgue, but in space. Her job is vital to the survival of the fleet because the bodies have to be put back into the system, they have to decompose, they have to go back into the system and essentially help feed and grow food for the rest of the fleet. She's definitely proud of her job, but she feels like there's more to it and she wants something more from it. We then have Kip, who is a teenage boy. He's grown up all his life on the fleet and he feels like he doesn't really get it. He's a bit bored, he's a bit over it. A typical teenage guy, really. He doesn't know exactly what he wants to do with himself, but he just doesn't really want to be stuck doing everything everyone else is. He's a typical teenager who does stupid things because his friends tell him to. He's very much led by the others, but there is reason to his plotline and it does make sense in the end, and I did enjoy him in the end once he kind of grew up a little bit. We then have Tessa, who is the sister to Ashby, the character from Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and she has two kids who are called Kai and Aya. Both of the kids are quite young, so she spends a lot of time taking care of them when she's not working, and at the start of the book she's not really sure how she feels. She's always loved the fleet, she's grown up there, she can't really see herself leaving, but she sees her two children having struggles and she sees the way that they are not fitting into fleet life. They have issues that mean that they're just not quite gelling, and she wants to help them. So over the course of the book we see her struggle with this and how can she help them get away from something that's so intrinsically part of them. We then have Sawyer, and Sawyer is a human who is outside of the fleet. So originally someone must have been on the fleet for him to be a descendant of, but he doesn't have any recollection of it. He's never been to the fleet until the story, and we see him as he goes there as an outsider and tries to fit in with the society that has been built there. And the mentality of the fleet is that if there is food, everyone will be fed. Everything is spread evenly, and he's not quite sure how he fits into that, but he does his best to do so. Finally, we have the Harmedian, whose name, again, I am going to butcher, and this is something like Gololholoa? Like I say, never gonna be easy. And this alien is the person who is coming to the fleet to try and understand and investigate them from an alien perspective. Z is not overly familiar with the fleet. They don't really understand the concept of humanity and what it means to be human, so Z is going around trying to interview people and find out about their lives, their livelihoods, what they do, and basically communicate that back to the rest of the aliens out in the universe via some sort of blog, essentially. So yeah, I really enjoyed all of the perspectives. What I love about the solar system itself, that she set it all in, definitely there are bad things that happen in this universe, and the people of this universe know that, but they also know that the best way to make it all right again and to basically make the best of whatever situation they're in is to be honest and open and accepting. They do this by listening to one another, and I feel like Becky Chambers using Z and Zia pronouns and also having things like same-sex couples just be normal, not something that's added in for effect, but something that is just feeling like normality in this universe because it's so far in the future from where we are. It's just normal and it feels normal. She does a great job of sort of seamlessly inserting these things so that we don't notice them consciously, but they are there, and it's great representation. Overall, of course, I thought this was brilliant. I gave it 5 stars, of course, because it's Becky Chambers and she's one of my all-time favourites, but honestly, every book she's done so far, and there are 3 right now, has been great, and I definitely think this is no exception to that rule. I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly recommend Record of a Spaceborne Few when it comes out. 26th of July this comes out, so definitely pick it up or pre-order your copy. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.